Hello, and welcome to the Borealis Experience. I'm so happy to be back, to be reconnecting with you. I hope you're doing well. I hope you feel peace. I hope you feel confident about yourself. I hope you feel good about the path that you're on, the journey that you're engaged in. And if that's not the case, if you feel confused, stuck, frustrated, lost, I hope my podcast will add value to your life and support you, inspire you, make you feel your heart and your soul on a deeper level. I have a puppy whining in the background, so that's my challenge today, but we'll just go with the flow and I will not let myself get distracted. So it's January, difficulty speaking today. It's January 7th, 2024. We brought Christmas behind us and the New Year celebrations. I hope you feel all right. I hope you had a good time with friends and family or with yourself. If you decided to spend the holidays alone, I totally understand this too. But yeah, I hope you don't feel burned out, because a lot of people that I talk to right now are kind of happy that things are over. They had a good time with family. Good food and great outdoors activities together, but it can also be a lot of texting back and forth, coordinating, trying to please everybody or accommodating everybody, trying to not step on people's toes, trying to not feel triggered when it comes to family. family. So it can be a lot. There's a lot of expectations involved. There's a lot of, out of routine days happening. And that's good. Let's get it messy. Let's get it chaotic. But then it's also nice and exciting to get back to routine and maybe starting a new routine, right? New Year's resolutions, goals, dreams, whatever it is, intentions. A lot of people talk about setting intentions now instead of having New Year's resolutions, and I totally applaud that, embrace that myself. Sometimes having resolutions are great, but it can be too rigid. It can be too big of a change that we all of a sudden want to engage in, and then we drop it after 2 weeks or maybe after 2 days already, get frustrated with ourselves, and then end up in a position that is worse than when we first started. And I want to help you with that. I don't want you to feel frustrated. I don't want you to, not set goals or chase after your dreams. But what I want to encourage you and make you aware of is that sometimes we are with ourselves, with our relationship to ourselves, our life. We are in a spot where we tend to self-abandon. We put ourselves last. We have very harsh self-talk. We have belief systems in place that are not necessarily, heart-opening and kind towards ourselves or others. And then we come up with a New Year's resolution. Let's say we want to have a successful business by the end of the year, or we want to lose 15 kilos throughout the year. We want to exercise regularly. If those New Year's resolutions meet a person that constantly abandoned him or herself, that's not going to work out. You're just going to hate yourself even more. You're going to feel like the biggest failure ever, if you have a coach who tells you, yeah, awesome, set your goals low, and then, we build on that. And that's great advice for a person who's been working on themselves and loves themselves already. But a lot of people are not there yet, and that's perfectly fine. No need to feel embarrassed, or no need to feel less than or not enough. But a lot of people have to realize that they look into the mirror in the morning and they absolutely hate what they see. They can't even bring up a smile. They can't even look into their own eyes. And how can a person like that all of a sudden engage in practices that are completely self-loving and heart-opening, right? Just like a person who has been living on the streets for the last couple of weeks or months, all of a sudden going to a spa, they will not feel comfortable because their nervous system is still in abandonment mode, survival mode, having to fight or flight mode. And then you want to start to, draw them a bath and spend money on a massage and go to the hairdresser and have your nails done and engage in a coaching journey. That might be not in alignment with that person's nervous system. It might be too much of a drastic change, and then you cannot expect good results. You can have a great mindset, very positive, very push through the day, everything is great, and kind of harass yourself to feel happy. But on the inside, you know that you're lying to yourself. On the inside, you know that you're not ready yet for this. So you got to dial back a little bit and realize and accept that you don't like yourself. Otherwise, you wouldn't abandon yourself. And if you were not to abandon yourself constantly, you could consistently engage in self-care practices. But there's something inside of you that keeps manipulating the situation. And what is that little thing inside of you? What is it that prevents you from being consistent, from showing up, from being punctual, from being orderly, from being this loving, open-hearted person that absolutely adores him or herself and respects and loves other people? You got to come back to that. You can't run away from it. You can, but it will cost you so much more effort and energy, and will just be a great waste of time, because again, on the outside, you will look like, oh man, he's got it all together. Oh man, she's got it all. But on the inside, you know you're lying to yourself. And I'm always, if you're listening to this podcast for the first time, here is what I do, is that I want to get you to the point where you look from the inside out and not from the outside in. Not from the perspective of how do I fit in, how do I function, what do other people think of me, how do I, communicate with other people. That's important too, because we all want to belong. We all need to belong for survival. But I want you to go within, to make space and time to learn about yourself. Who are you? What part is it inside of you that keeps abandoning yourself? That prevents you from showing up for yourself, What is it that makes you think that you're not deserving of nicely, running business, an abundant life, What is it inside of you that doesn't accept this beautiful relationship that you're in? And you keep pushing your partner away, you keep building walls, you keep blaming and shaming, and all along, it's something inside of you that you need to heal. What is it inside of you that makes you feel less than, that has you compare yourself all the time? And not always, but often, I go back in time with people, with my clients, during the coaching journey, and we explore what happened, what really messed up your sense of self, and can we heal that? Can we change your perspective on that? Right? I had a client the other day, and she said she's basically an orphan. She has no parents, she never had, because they neglected her, they made her feel shit. They, emotionally, physically abused her. She's an orphan, she says. And she has a shaky foundation. So she is successful now, but she's always scared that it's going to be taken away from her. She is always scared that house of cards will collapse one day, because she has a shaky foundation, because her parents they were not parents for her. She didn't grow up with caregivers that loved her, supported her. And so she doesn't really believe herself in her success. And that's such a tragic story, because this woman is so extremely beautiful and so capable and so intelligent, loving, and yet she believes that she's not worthy because of her upbringing. So what we do is we go back in time and we find situations where she felt this way for the first time, and then change the perspective, learn more about her parents, her upbringing, and so on and so on and so on. So we sometimes have to go back in time, right? Because a lot of people ask me, I want to start coaching, but I heard that's, we only look into the future and we build strength for the future. Yeah, we do all that. But sometimes you got to go back to your roots, and you got to heal from the roots and make sure that you know how worthy you are. Because no coaching in this world is going to help you if you think you're not worthy of it. And no New Year's resolution and self-care practice that you want to engage in is going to, be a consistent, how do you say that? My English is really bad today. You will not be able to stay consistent. It will not be sustainable if you don't love yourself. And with your mind, with your ego, you can, keep forcing it and keep showing up and go to the gym and lift heavier weights. But it's going to be harder and harder. It's going to take more and more effort if you don't go back to your self-abandonment issues. And how does self-abandonment look like? Well, self-abandonment has many, many faces. Right? We can have a morning routine, or we can have a plan for how our day wants to unfold, how we would feel best. And then somebody comes up and say, hey, can you help me with this? All right, then I'm going to help you with this, because that person has helped us in the past. We're going to show up for them now. All right. And then we sit down and we want to get work done. Finally, everything is quiet. We start working. 10 minutes into the work, we think, I never got back to that person on Facebook. I better get them a message sent, because otherwise they'll be upset. Then I'm on Facebook messaging. Next thing you know, I'm on social media, on TikTok, on Instagram, everywhere, checking if there's messages or notifications or anything I need to get back to. Half an hour goes by. Oh shit, okay, I gotta go back to work. Then the phone rings and there's a person who needs help. And of course you're not gonna, let them down, and you show up for them. And then so your whole morning went by. In the evening you wanted to subscribe to a yoga class, and now your husband tells you, or your partner, or whoever wanted to show up for you, that they don't have time to babysit the dog or your child. And here goes your self-care practice. You have belief systems that when something goes wrong, that life is against you. When somebody is upset or angry or treats you like very poorly, that you deserve it. You have a hard time setting boundaries. You have an extremely hard time expressing your needs, especially when it comes to your family and your relationships. You have a feeling that consistency and structure is restraining you, restricting you. It doesn't feel good. So you don't like structure because back then at school, maybe you had a bad experience with a teacher, and now you hate authority, you hate discipline, you hate, being punctual. You don't like structure because you have a negative conditioning with structure and discipline. But that's needed in order to be successful. So there's a tug of war inside of you when you want to get things done, that you have a genuine resistance to discipline. You can't stay focused because of that, and you get frustrated at yourself. And when people treat you poorly, you believe them. You don't stand up for yourself. When people need something from you, you give them, your all, which is great, but we have to find times where we say no. So to work on that first, and to train, standing in front of the mirror, and to train to accept all parts of you, and to bring up the parts that you resist and absolutely, dislike and reject, and to engage on a journey to embrace those parts. Because if you keep living in denial of those parts, they're going to keep limping behind you, like a shadow, like a sad, starved little dog. So you got to give it some attention, even though it's not comfortable. But otherwise, there's no point in engaging in great New Year's intentions, resolutions, however you want to call it, goals and dreams. Because once you get there, once you have the perfect body, once you have the great relationship, once you have the job, once you have the running business, you will not feel like you deserve it. It will not be sustainable. And then what was all the effort for? You got to train your whole nervous system, your whole being, to be the biggest, greatest gift of love to this world that is so incredibly unique and magical and needed. And then you will engage in practices that are in resonance with that. Everything that you do before embracing yourself and loving yourself is going to be a waste of money. All right. This is my message for you today, and I'll send you out into this day and this evening with so much love, so much respect. I can't wait to meet with you in person, be it at the Yeared Experience or over Zoom. I'm always there for questions. If you have questions, regarding this episode, if you have requests for future episodes, never hold back. And if you're curious about a coaching journey with me, send me a message, and I'd be glad to, share with you how I approach this thing called coaching. And if you have a partner, if you are in a relationship, we can certainly include your partner, or even try out a one-time intimacy class, which I highly recommend before engaging on a longer journey. And if you are single and want to heal from past heartbreak and feel, you are not on a good path right now with being single, and you want to change things around, but you don't know how, then I'd gladly serve you as well. All right. Take really good care of yourself. And as you know, this podcast is kind of a build-up, a progression, very timeless. So go back to old episodes. You can conveniently pick them via titles, whatever you find most interesting. And this podcast is all for free, and I wanted to keep it that way. But if you got some value out of it, please consider leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, a rating. And there is a donation button in the show notes. Buy me a coffee. Of course, I won't buy a coffee with the money. I will put it right back into my podcast expenses or incomes to cover the expenses. And I'd be so ever grateful to receive any kind of feedback. With so much love, take good care of yourself. Bye-bye.